this is a really prolific camp. We've already seen 650 million ounces of silver produced from the cobalt mining camp. And I think that's the goal is to get another 650 million ounces out of the ground. I don't see why we can't continue to explore for these deposits. We've had tremendous success.
Hey everybody, this is Rob Kientz with goldsilverpros.com. I'm joined by a very special guest, Matt Holliday, who's the president, chief operating officer, and director of a company called Canada Silver Cobalt. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Rob.
So I think that we've met a couple of times, most recently at a conference in Europe, I believe, but we've talked several times about your project dating back to last year, and I'm really intrigued by this project. You guys are looking at cobalt and silver, both really needed metals for industry, for technology. And I think the project has tons of great potential. We'll get into that in a moment. I wanted first, since we're introducing you to our audience, to talk about your background and a little bit more about you.
Sure, great. Well, people who know me, some people know me as 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘿. It's kind of a nickname I picked up here at Canada Silver Cobalt. I am a resource geologist by background, and I spent the better part of a decade with a company called SGS Minerals. I worked at their geostats department, and it was a world-leading resource house. I got to learn from some amazing geostatisticians, engineers, geologists, wonderful team. In 2016, I was part of a team that won the Integrity Gold Challenge in the PDAC. So that was $1 million in prizes. We took the number one prize, $500,000 for the company. After I left the geostat place, I went off to the cobalt mining camp here, and I fell in love with it. I briefly did a stint at Kirkland Lake Gold, but as soon as I had the opportunity to come right back into the cobalt mining camp, I did. I took it, and it's a very interesting place, very high grade silver, and it has cobalt associated with the silver. There's also nickel and copper here, and the deposits are tricky, and I like that. I think that it's really intriguing.
So of all the different things that you could be looking at as a geologist, why silver cobalt?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, it's the excitement and the challenge of these deposits. I mean, I just love the fact that there is these crazy high grade deposits here. I moved here from Montreal to Northern Ontario to work at this type of deposit. But I think silver is a very interesting metal. I mean, it's an emerging EV metal. It's a form of currency. It's as a precious metal, and I think that there's also a supply shortage of silver, and I think that makes it really interesting in itself. I would like to become a producer. I am an active explorationist, but I think that part of my background is also been in production, and I think taking a project to production is a good goal, and I think silver is a great one to bring to the world.
Yeah, to your point earlier, I think the Silver Institute has said we were at record demand for silver last year, over 1 billion ounces for the first time. And then for 2022, they expect another 111 million ounces of demand piled on top of that, mostly driven by industrial. We're not even getting into like the investor demand, which could continue to increase, if we continue to have some economic strain around the world. But just from an industrial perspective, the amount of silver needed every year dwarfs what the mines are able to produce. So we are in that supply deficit. Matt, if you guys are going to get into mining the next couple of years, how would your company help alleviate that, that deficit of silver?
Well, it's actually interesting that there is a deficit in the silver. I mean, it's a pretty new thing, and I guess we're going to see more of that as the photovoltaics, that's a tough word to say. They're kind of plateauing, but the EV market is really bumping up. And, right now I have a pretty small deposit, and we only have 7.5 million ounces inferred. I'd like to see that really grow. I've promised the world a resource update soon. So I'm looking for a tripling to quintupling of my current resource. But the fact is this is a really prolific camp. We've already seen 650 million ounces of silver produced from the cobalt mining camp. And I think that that's the goal is to get another 650 million ounces out of the ground. I don't see why we can't continue to explore for these deposits. We've had tremendous success right now with what we've been doing. And I have a lot of room in 𝙎𝙊𝙇𝙑 to grow. But I think with the all-star team that we've been building, there's a lot of room to grow in the camp as a whole. And, we've been working on new techniques. So I think this is the kind of company that will have a lot of deposits in the future. And we'll be working on multi-deposits and trying to phase in production over the long term. I mean, of course, right now we're starting with something small, but it's growing and it's growing fast. So I think that we'll be able to be in a position to have controlled production for a long time.
Is the Castle Silver Mine your main property that you're looking at?
Yes, that's our main property right now. Yes. So we have the historic Castle Mine, which was a past producing mine. And we have the Castle East, which is a greenfields exploration site.
Okay.
And that's where we're really developing our resources today. But that being said, we would like to get back into the Castle Mine in the future as well, and continue exploration there. That was one of the last operating mines in this camp. It was operated by 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘿 at the time. And they normally, what they did, they had a strategy where they would basically mine, then they would gut the mine and bring the infrastructure to the next mine. But they did not do that in this situation. This was a different situation. So the silver price dropped at that time. They had a total change in management, and they focused on their gold division. So the castle, I think, it just remains an open mine. Like maybe there's more exploration to be done there, and it can be rehabilitated in the future.
So one of the things that you're calling card that people are just starting to discover and I think get excited about is super high grade. So talk about your grades that you're seeing in the silver.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, this is a narrow vein, high grade camp. It always has been. There's a few anomalies where it's not necessarily that classical situation, but we're looking at tens of thousands of grams per ton. Our highest intercept to date was 89,853 grams per ton silver, over 0.3 meters, and that came with 1.5% cobalt. But I think that we have a lot of hits that are over 1,000 grams, and once you start hitting 1,000 to 2,000 grams per ton, those are really good grades. Those are spectacular grades, and so you can find these high grade panels where we are hitting these 40, 50, 60, 70,000 grams per ton silver. And that's where you make your big bonanza type of mining and stope that out. But the grades that we have around are also consistent for continued development. So, I mean, it's great to see these 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 gram per ton hits.
Yeah, that's extremely rare in silver, extremely rare in North America, especially in silver, seeing, over 1,000, seeing an 89,000 print. But you guys also have cobalt. Cobalt, of course, is used in battery metals. It's used in electronic vehicles. It's used in a lot of things. How does that introduction of cobalt affect the economics? I mean, you've already got a lot of silver, but what does that cobalt allow you to do? Because you're getting that out of the ground at the same time.
That's right. Well, basically, the vision for us is to be able to produce the cobalt for free. The silver pays the extraction, and then all of the cobalt we can produce very cheaply. We do have a technology called 𝙂𝙁. It's a processing technology. So we're not going to just produce cobalt, but we're going to try and produce cobalt sulfate. And we have already produced cobalt sulfate for Sumitomo Metals in Japan. We produced 100 grams into 2018, I believe. And we met their specifications for the EV market, which is pretty much some of the strictest in the world. So that's our intention, is to basically be able to produce high-grade silver and then get that byproduct of cobalt. And not only cobalt, these deposits have small amounts of copper and nickel. And so our same process would be able to concentrate the copper and nickel and produce copper sulfate and nickel sulfate for the EV market as well. But the cobalt is a much bigger driver than the copper nickel.
Gotcha. So would you call yourself primarily a silver company or a cobalt company? Is it really just like an even mix of different metals?
Oh, we're a silver company for sure. Silver pays all the bills. It's when you're looking at 80,000 grams per ton silver or something like that. That's a silver company. We're just fortunate that we have a strong cobalt byproduct that comes along with the silver.
So talk specifically what jurisdiction you're in there in Canada, and talk about a little bit more about the history of that. Because the reason I ask is a lot of investors want to know what jurisdiction they're investing in. They want to make sure that there's not a whole lot of risk. Some people worry about nationalization, those types of things. So we just like to talk about the district in a bit more detail.
Oh yeah, we're in a great spot. So we're in Northern Ontario, and our project is in a small town called 𝙎𝙊𝙇𝙑𝙬. No one's heard of this, but we're about 40 kilometers away from 𝙎𝙬𝙇𝙬𝙀 mine, which is Alamos Gold. And that's in a small town called Matachewan. And we're about 90 kilometers away from Kirkland Lake's 𝙂𝙍𝙀𝙊𝙎 mine. So, I think a lot of people who follow gold mining might know Kirkland Lake's 𝙂𝙍𝙀𝙊𝙎 mine. It's one of Canada's highest grade gold mines. And so we're kind of on that belt, and 𝙎𝙬𝙇𝙬𝙀 has a new mine that they're opening up about 100 kilometers to the other side of us. And that's so we're really in a strong mining area. There's a lot of mining. We're not far from Timmins or Sudbury. We're a couple hours from either of those mining camps. So the cobalt camp is kind of in the heart of a lot of these other mining camps. We're kind of in sandwiched between prolific mining camps. And we were one of the original mining camps, actually. The cobalt mining camp, again, produced 650 million ounces of silver. It was a boom town back in its day.
Why was the mining stopped here? I think you had an interesting story around that.
Oh, well, there was a couple of brothers. We'll not talk about them, but the price of silver, did have a fallout in the 80s. And so the last major operator was Agnico, and Agnico owned a very large, still owns quite a substantial amount of the cobalt mining camp. Agnico was born here. It stands for silver, nickel, cobalt. And so that is pretty interesting. And then they had the death of their president, Paul Penna at the time. And so they had a very large management shift. They had an operating gold division. And so they just pulled out of the cobalt mining camp, and they still remain out. And so, it wasn't until, I guess, now that people are really showing a lot of interest at coming back into the cobalt mining camp. And I think that started with the cobalt boom of 2017, 2018. But people like me realize that it's a silver camp. So let's keep finding good silver deposits.
So I think you guys have a resource estimate. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And you mentioned earlier how you want to multiply that. And I know that you're going to do that through some exploration. So maybe you can describe your plans for 2022 and what investors should expect for you guys in terms of expanding out this resource.
Okay, sure.
So I think this is what you guys have in your presentation. So you've got total inferred mineral resources here of about, is it 7.5 million silver ounces, 7.7 million silver equivalent. And then you guys look like you're going to do some additional drilling as well.
Right. So this was produced in May of 2020. And it was based off of our discovery vein, the Robinson vein. So this is one vein.
I gotcha.
In fact, we've actually continued to drill that vein too. So, it's not just one vein and it's done. It's just the first steps of one vein. Since then, we initiated 50,000 meters of drilling. We've actually bumped that up to 60,000 meters. And now we have, I think 8 or 9 veins. It really depends on the spacing, whether one is a new vein or not, right? You have to prove the continuity there. But I'd say safely we have 8 veins. And we have 5 main veins now. So we have the Robinson, the Big Silver, 17-meter zone. It's a group of veins, but I'll call it one vein. And we have the 61A and the 61B vein. And those are the focus of our next resource update. So, you know, we're really looking at getting those incorporated. I'd like to have this resource update for the end of Q1. And so, you know, there's a lot of new material going in there. The Big Silver, which was that picture we showed earlier, is possibly the highest grade of our veins. So, you know, we're going to keep that same high grade flavor with our resource update. Like that was even higher silver than the Robinson vein, and it had more cobalt than the Robinson vein. So that's kind of where we're looking. But as I mentioned earlier, when you asked, are we a silver company, a cobalt company? We're a silver company. This resource, if you look at it, it's a silver resource with a cobalt byproduct.
Gotcha. And so it looks like you guys are going to update for a news release sometime Q1 about your resource. Is that coming out here in the next couple of months?
Yes.
Awesome.
And you know, right now, actually, we did have a recent press release where we introduced some results from the 61 vein. And so that's kind of the thread of the next month or two is you know, showing some of the results of each of these veins as the assays come in and they get compiled in place. So, you know, as we're moving towards this resource update, we also are starting to get some good stuff coming in.
So this, I think, would be the January 10th news release that goes over that vein?
That's right. So this is just the 61 zone, which is 2 veins, the 61A and 61B.
Okay, walk us through a little bit what we're saying. Here's some of the sample details that you guys have.
Well, there's not much to walk over other than you're seeing basically, you know, we took the veins that had sizable silver. So basically, you're looking at silver grades between 600 grams per ton and about 2,500 grams per ton. I included the 600 grams in this particular one because it had a 1.1% cobalt. I thought that was interesting. And they just show the continuity of the vein. So I think the big takeaway here is the amount of distance that this is added to the vein. So the initial hit on the 61A was 30,000 grams per ton. And this adds over 22 meters of distance between these various pierce points. So the fact that we're really growing these veins and at these, you don't need a lot of distance to grow them. Like, you know, when you want to get close spacing, right? So we're just, you know, incrementally getting further and further away. And, you know, we're just going to keep doing that with all of these veins that we have. And so.
Do you anticipate, so it seems as though, you know, there's always expansion potential in a lot of these mining districts. You focus on the veins you have now, but you could also do some exploration drilling. Are you guys going to finish sort of drilling out these existing 8 veins that you found and then make a decision to go to the mine? Or would you just continue, if you continue to find more resource, would you just keep going?
No, so I really want to get this ramped down. Based on, I'm hoping to get a PEA off the back of this resource update. And I hope that the PEA will help me fund the ramp development. But the ramp development would be advanced exploration with a large bulk sample. And then we would move to a full mining permit eventually. But what I want to do is continue the exploration from underground. These are near vertical veins, high grade. Exploration from underground, I think, provides me with the quickest, cheapest, fastest means to be able to double, triple yet again my resource from the underground situation. The big saying here in the cobalt mining camp: you drill for structure, you mine for grade. And we need to open up these structures as quickly as we can with the least amount of drill meters that we can. So that's my intention. Going back just a bit to what's the rest of the drill program, I do intend on drilling a couple of targets that are not necessarily related to those main veins. We do have a gold zone south of the Robinson. We hit 25 grams per ton gold over like just a small vein, right? But it's where I want to put the portal to the ramp. And so I need to do some, I don't know if you want to call it condemnation drilling, but we need to go back there and make sure that we don't sterilize a potential gold zone. And we do have gold hits right across the property, even into the Castle mine. Actually, anecdotally, Frank discovered gold in the Silverpore when he was working for Agnico. Frank is our CEO. And so I don't want to condemn that ground. So I am going to spend a couple of, I mean, we're talking small meterage compared to my program. Like I'm going to spend 1,500 meters or something like that, checking out this shallow gold zone. But you don't want to sterilize something that has that kind of potential.
Okay. For a moment, if you just talk about your financials, do you guys have money in the bank, and how are your shares in terms of how you guys have you distributed those? I'm assuming it's an exploration company. You're going to do some additional raises. People may have the ability to get involved in that if they like the company.
Yeah, we do have money in the bank. I don't know the exact figure as of today, but I guess 4 or 5 million in the bank. And we basically have the funding to do what we've said we would do, which is the resource update, complete the drill program, pre-development. So we're good until like mid-year. We have some really heavy outputs coming up till mid-year. So, we're going to accomplish a lot of things. In terms of the share.
Yeah, so people want to get interested. We'll just put it up on screen if they are interested in investing in Canada Silver Cobalt. You guys trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture, CCW. Here in the States on the OTCQB, CCWOF, and in the Frankfurt as well.
Right.
Where do you see most of your investment? Is it from Canadian investors, US investors, European investors, or do you guys have investors from all over the world? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a good mix. Our investment is mostly retail investors. We do have a fairly sizable chunk in the management. The CEO's family does have a large portion of the company. However, I think the main breakdown would be Europe and Canada. We do have some investment going on in the United States. I'd like to see more, but right now I think it's predominantly Canada, England, Germany, and maybe Switzerland. Again, mostly retail investment is the breakdown right now.
So the institutional investors haven't figured you guys out yet, but when I think they see the updated resource estimate and the silver that you guys have, this thing's going to explode, because looking at the silver shortage, whoever has high grade silver is going to win, whether you're producing or not. And I think they're going to win fairly quickly, whether you're in Mexico, Canada, the US. Those are 3 prime areas, Australia, of course. The Fraser Institute loves these areas. They love these districts. And with that silver shortage, and the grades that you guys have, I look for you to get a whole lot of attention really quickly. And the reason I say this is, if you're an investor out there, you watch my channel, you know that I do a lot of these mining stocks. This is one that you really want to pay particular attention to, because when the Sprots of the world start to get interested, they're going to come in pretty heavy. So you guys may want to consider taking your positions now. The story is not going to stay under wraps for very long. And we're going to help you guys. We're going to help put you on the channel. We're going to cover you guys. We'll bring you guys to conferences as well to help people know, because this is a really important project. I mean, not only because you guys have such a great project, but strategically we need our silver, right? And we need it in North America. So I see this as being, very strategic to the growth of our industry here in the next few years. So happy to introduce you to my audience, Matt. I love the company. I'll be participating as well, and appreciate you coming on the program to tell us more about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob.
All right. Thank you. Hey, everybody, this is Robert. Thank you so much for watching that video content. I have a couple of quick announcements I'd like to share with you as we head out of this video. First, I want you to know that on January 26, 2022, we're going to have our inaugural 2022 Metals Kickoff Conference. It'll be the first virtual conference of the year. We'll have many to follow. You can register for it by clicking on the link in the video description below, and which will take you to this page, and you can click to register for that event. We'll have many great speakers there that you guys love. Tavi Costa from Crescat Capital, James Anderson from SD Bullion, John Fennick, Fennick Consulting, Dave Kranzler, Investment Research Dynamics, Andy Schechtman from Miles Franklin, Ian Everard from Mark Silver, and more will be joining us, as well as a slew of companies if you're interested in investing. Also wanted to remind you, you can find us on goldsilverpros.com. We have a free newsletter. If you click here and enter your email address, we'll send that out every Monday to you, as well as we have special precious metals deals with leading bullion dealers here in the United States. If you click that button, you can go here and click on either Miles Franklin or Ark Silver and get the best deals in the business. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us on the channel. Until next time, this has been Gold Silver Pros.